Lesson 5 is all about working with colors, making color swatches and managing colors in Adobe InDesign. Before you get started, make sure you've downloaded the Lesson 5 lesson pack. You can have a look at what we're going to be creating if you download and look at the End InDesign document. But for now, we're going to close it out and we're going to open up the O5 Start InDesign document. Now, when you open up your file, if you're greeted with the Issues with Links thing, remember you can always click the Update Modified Links, and that'll reopen the document the way the Lord intended. I'm also going to close out my end file and not save it. Now, Adobe InDesign gives you the ability to create documents both in CMYK, which is meant for sending off to a printer, and RGB color modes. And RGB is meant for displaying screen graphics. Whenever you open a document, there's a couple of things that you can set up to make sure you're viewing everything correctly. First off, if I zoom in and you notice that your document is very pixelated, at least all of the images and especially your vector graphics tend to be low quality. You can always go to the View settings and make sure your display performance is set to high quality display. This way, whenever you zoom in on your images, they'll display at full resolution. The other thing you can do is define your color settings. Now, this is the kind of thing that you don't want to often change. Typically, you can keep everything exactly the way it is. However, some color printers require you to have a certain color setting so that you know what your document looks like once it's actually physically produced. To find your color settings, go under the Edit drop-down menu, and towards the bottom, you've got a variety of different color setting and color profiles that you can choose. If you choose Edit the Color Settings, these will show you all of the color settings and what they'll look like for your Adobe InDesign color space. And again, some of these are more used often than others. For example, the North American General Purpose 2 is a great general default that 99.9% of the time you can leave your settings at. However, if you change it over to one of these other presets, these may come in handy knowing depending on where you are in different areas of the world or where things are going to be produced at. One thing to note is whenever you scroll over these different settings, pay attention to the description down at the bottom. This will give you an idea of why and when you should use it when making your settings and your setup. We don't really have to make any changes at this particular time, so you can click on these and select them and see what they'll look like and how they'll change. However, once you're finished looking at them, make sure to hit the cancel button so that you don't commit to any changes for your document. Now let's say you do want to proof what your document would look like if it was sent to a different color. To do this, we're going to set up a proof as if this was being sent to a black and white printer. I'm going to do this by opening up my document as two different versions side by side. We can do this by going to the Window drop-down menu, go down to Arrange, and choose New Window for your Start document. With this second version selected and active, we can go up down to View, down to Proof Setup, and let's do a custom setup to see what it would look like. This will give you a little dialog box that lets you choose different kinds of printers that you could send it to. For example, if I wanted to print this off on a black and white printer, I could scroll down, and let's see if we can find one that says dot gain of 20%. Now when I say OK, you can see it turns everything black and white because that particular printer setting is for a black and white printer. And this will give you a pretty good idea of how the colors could change. You can always go through and go back up to View and your Proof Setup, and you can proof the colors for any different kinds of printer or even different kinds of monitors that you could be on, simply by clicking OK. Some of these may be more subtle than others. Some of these may be very dramatic. Once you're finished, you can always go back up to View and you can uncheck Proof Colors, and that'll turn it back off. Then we can close out this second view that we have open so that we've just got one to work on. Now, once you send something to a printer, it's a good idea to check it for any kind of color issues that may come up. You can do this by pre-flighting it. Let's open our pre-flight menu by going up to Window, down to Output, and choose Pre-flight. Inside of this dialog box, this gives you the ability to look in different profiles and to check for a variety of different errors. Let's click on the Options button for this menu and define a profile. From here, we can choose to either choose one of the predefined ones that are already here. We can create our own by clicking on the plus sign, or in our case, we're going to load up a predefined profile that was already given to us. In the File menu for Lesson 5, choose the Flyer Profile IDPP. We'll say Open. You can see it's now added to our list. And you can go through and you can open up each little part and you can see what it's going to be checking for. For instance, it's going to look for any missing links or anything that it can't find. Under the Color Profile, especially under Color Spaces and Modes Not Allowed, we can see that it's going to look for any RGB colors that are used in our photographs that we have. This means if we've got any kind of pictures that are in a color space for screens, it's going to flag it as an error so that we can go through and we can correct these RGB images. You can go through and look at all the different settings for this, but we'll say OK. And then from here we can choose the profile we want to use, and we can use the new Flyer profile. We can see now it has one particular error. In this case, the error, when we click on the color space profile, somewhere there's a line on page 1 that is using the wrong color space. If I click on page 1, it'll jump there and I can actually see it highlighted right here. Since we want to fix this, let's pull this pre-flight over to the side so we can see it, and let's find our swatches panel. In our case, I can see the dark green color swatch has the 3 bars of RGB, and that's the color that it's flagging as being incorrect. We want to be able to change this over to a CMYK color mode. So with it selected, we can double click on the color itself. This will bring up our swatch options. Let's change the color mode from RGB to CMYK. This will pick the closest CMYK value for it, and we'll say OK to that. Now note that it's a CMYK color. Also, in our pre-flight, the error is completely gone and there's no errors that are part of our document. We can now close this out. Let's close out our swatches file too. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and save our document. We'll go to File and Save. We're going to call this our 05 Color InDesign document. Hey, since we've been working in colors, let's make some color swatches. Once again, let's open up our swatches panel. And remember, to make a new swatch, you can click on the options and choose New Color Swatch. Now, in addition to working in color modes for CMYK and RGB, you can see there's a variety of other different color swatches that you can choose from. Some of these, again, are a little bit more industry standards, and some of these are industry specific. For example, we want to be able to create a specific color swatch in the Toyo color spectrum. Toyo is a company that produces their own color inks that you can purchase, and so they also give you the ability to choose their specific colors and their specific color naming pattern. So with it selected, we're going to choose the Toyo Color Finder. You can see that it will list out all of their different colors in their own little color space. Let's change our color type from a process color to be a spot color. Now to choose their specific colors, you can type it in the little search bar up here, and we want number 10002. That'll give us this particular color of pink. With it selected, you can click Add, and you can see that it's been added to our swatches panel. I'll click Done to say that we're done to it. One thing to note whenever you add colors to your swatches is also the little icons that are created. In addition to telling you if it's a CMYK or an LAB type color, the little dot in the center next to it lets you know that it's a spot color versus the little checkered pattern lets you know that it's a process color. Spot colors literally are just that one particular version of that color as you create and use them. Now you can see these colors in action by opening up your color panel. I don't see my color panel over here to the side, so let's go to Window, down to Color, and then choose Color. This will give us a little slider of exactly whatever color we have selected. In this case, since that Toyo color is just a spot color, we only get a tint of it selected when we choose this, so we can only get lighter versions of that, that particular color that we have. I want to make sure everything is deselected on my canvas by going to Edit, and I can choose or not choose Deselect All, so nothing is selected on mine for this one. Another way you can pick up colors is using your eyedropper tool. The eyedropper tool is usually located at the very bottom of your toolbox. You can click on it. It's hiding, in my case, underneath the Color Theme tool. With the eyedropper tool, this lets you click on any particular point on your document to pick up that particular color. In our case, I'm going to zoom in to this little flower, and I'm going to click on the middle of the yellow. One click turns my icon dark, and you can see in my color panel how it picks up that particular color that it's selected on. Because this image is a CMYK image, you can see that's giving me the values in CMYK and the percentages from here. If you want to continue clicking on other areas, hold down the Option key, and that'll give you the ability to move things around and to see different parts as well. Now, if we wanted to dial in our own specific color values, we can always highlight the color panel. Let's type in 10 for the C, 0 for M for magenta. We'll do 40% for Y, and we'll leave black at 0. This will give us a very specific version of that particular color of yellow. And if we want to add this color to our color swatches, we can click on the Options, and we can choose Add to Swatches. When we open our Swatches panel now, you can see how it's been added to the very bottom of our list. Another quick way to make a swatch is, I'm going to pull this down so I can see it. Click on the little plus sign at the bottom of the Swatches panel. Now, because I had that yellow selected, it made a copy of that yellow, but I can double click on the new copy. And from here, we can also type in the specific values that we want. Make sure your color type is set to Process. We're working in a color mode of CMYK. And also we can type in 25 for the cyan, 75 for magenta, 0 for yellow, and 0 for black. And that'll give us this nice pretty pink that is created from here too. With this done, we'll say OK to this. And you can see how it updates the values for those particular parts of that swatch. This time, let's make a new swatch in our Swatches panel by holding down the Option key if you're on a Mac or the Alt key if you're on a Windows computer when you click on the plus dialog box. This will automatically open the new swatch dialog box before creating a copy of that swatch. In this new one, let's set the cyan value of 90, hit Tab, 70 for magenta, 30 for yellow, and keeping black at 0. This will make a nice new blue. We'll click Add, and that will add that to our dialog box as well from here too. Finally, one more time, let's add one more new color swatch to our area. Same setup as always, except this is going to have a cyan value of 65, magenta of 25, 100% yellow, and 0 for black. And that'll make this a nice green. We'll do OK to this. And we can go up to File and we can save our document. And all of these swatches will be saved with our document as well.